So many people don't know that Christopher Columbus never ever touched U.S. soil. Never, not one time. On all his three expeditions, he never touched the U.S. Not ever. A lot of people also don't know that, what do they say? 12 million. Okay, I'm going to go off what they say, and then I'll use the regular words. I just want y'all to keep up. So 12 million Africans, 12.5 to be exact, were brought over here to the Americas. Now, you have to be real careful when they say that word, because half the time, they're not talking about us. They're talking about the Caribbeans. They're talking about Central America, Mexico, and a whole lot of South America. So yeah, 12.5 million Africans were brought over here during the transatlantic slave trade, during which time roughly 5 million, well, no, let's go back. During which time 2 million died. So we're going to leave with that. Estimated 2 million never made it. 5 million, however, were taken to South America, which leaves us with a little under 5 million left, okay? And coincidentally, those 5 million made it to the Caribbean islands, not here. Now, if you go deeper into the Native American slave trade, which isn't talked about a lot for whatever reason, this was technically going on since they got here, but it really peaked in, I believe, like 1670 to like the early 1800s, right? This is when they were moving roughly 5 million Native Americans. During this time, they moved roughly 5 million Native Americans to the Caribbeans, and it's called a trade, right? The trade, because this is where they started bringing the Africans to the U.S. So if this is in like 1670, you have to understand that Africans didn't start coming here till around that time, which means the black people that they're talking about before that are more than likely the ones who are already here. I know that gets y'all panties in a bunch, but facts is facts. You can look it up and they'll tell you this. Now that leads me into the conversation of race and why we have to start calling ourselves black. Stop calling ourselves black, because race was created during this time, okay? Keep up. So before all of this stuff started happening and the Indian Removal Act and all of that, they were not using race at all. It didn't exist, really. Race was like a, hold on, let me show you. Okay, plain and simple. I don't have my glasses on, so bear with me. But race is a modern social construct rather than a biological fact. The concept emerged between the 16th and 18th century in Europe and colonial America, largely used by naturalists and colonial lawmakers to justify the enslavement of African people, the dispossession of indigenous people, and the European imperialism. Now, let's go back to the early 1500s when they finally started coming over here. Because, mind you, it wasn't Christopher Columbus. It was some other people who, might I add, was getting their ass whooped down in Tampa Bay. Most of them died trying to get up in the South because those people was whooping ass. But anyway, that's not what this is about. So in the early 1500s, or in 1619, actually, when they started bringing people over by the boat, which I think the first one had roughly 20 of them, they were both white and black, what we would call white and black today. But back then, it was poor or not. It was classism and a religious separation. So a lot of these people who were brought over here were indentured servants. If you know what an indentured servant is, that is somebody who either agrees to a 4 to 7 year contract to work for you in order to gain housing and eventually freedom, right? So most of these people, both white and black, were indentured servants. Now, what had happened was when they started coming over here, they were treating them horribly, both white and black. But remind you, race wasn't about your skin tone. So look here, the word race began to appear in the English and French language around the 1500s. However, it did not refer to skin color. It simply meant a group of people from the same family line or lineage. That was really it. Now, going deeper into that, the whole concept of race only came about because these said indentured servants, white and black, might I add, were getting together and revolting along with the Indians and the indigenous people who were already here. Now they had this problem to deal with. So they decided to create a racial hierarchy in order to create the separation. Now, this is where slavery comes in, because before that, it really wasn't none of that shit going on. They like to make you believe that for 400 years we were slaves, but it's not true. You can dig deep and look it up, and it's not. There were prisoners of war, there were indentured servants, but the whole slavery thing was not happening. Slavery is more so an attempted thing that failed horribly and immediately went and caused hella fucking wars that led to the Civil War. That was like, yeah, we can't do that shit. They're not going for it. Now, mind you, with the Native American slave trade, this is where they were really doing all that cross the water shit that they're trying to act like was coming from Africa. But listen, let's stay focused. So with the Indian Removal Act and this new racial class system, it was making it so that white people could not be considered slaves to make them feel better. This is what caused the mental illness that we know today as white supremacy. So making them feel better, they often were given jobs like policing these new classified slaves. And when I mean new, this is like late 1600s, I believe, that they were now classifying them that if you were black, of African descent, or of black skin, because now this is a thing, of black skin, you were a slave. And it didn't matter if you were indigenous to the land or not. If your skin was black, you were black. And if your skin was white, you were white. Now, when people get into the whole thing of, but black people own slaves, look it up. I think about 2/3 of them only were buying family members and tribal members to keep them safe and alive. So no, they wasn't just all in the mix. It was a survival tactic. Indigenous people did the exact same thing. A lot of them would just buy their people in order to keep them safe. So yeah, about 2/3 of the people coming, or the white people that were coming over here, were indentured servants. They were not just regulating and running shit. They were also slaves too. Most of them got tricked into bondage. Now, they won't use that word. They'll say in prison. They'll give them the actual terms of what it was. But when it comes to melanated people, they go straight into just saying slave. Now, you have to understand what goes with that and why it's so important that they connect us to words like African American and black. I know this is going to get a lot of people panties in a bunch because y'all just don't like the truth. But this is not an argument to say you don't have African descendants, you don't have, or African ancestors, or that you didn't come from across the water at some point in history, and that you were not enslaved. This is not saying that. It's just saying that most of it is a lie, which we already know. So I don't know why we'd be so surprised when it comes to black people saying that we were already here and things like that. But keep up and focus. Don't get in your feelings, get in your logic. So the whole point of us going by black is to always connect us with being a slave, because the colors were made for racism. That's it. The racial whole existence only exists because of racism. So one cannot consider themselves free and black at the same time. It's damn near impossible. And on the other hand, one cannot consider themselves white and not racist. Argue with your mama, don't argue with me. Because if I argue with my mama, and if you argue with my mama, she gonna give you some facts, because we do our research. And speaking of my mama, a lot of this information that I'm talking about came from actual libraries and museums when me and my mom went on a 9-day road trip across the South, doing some heavy digging research to find out that we could go back to like the 1700s and not find one fucking slave in our bloodline. Not one. Now, our grandmas had already told us we wasn't from where they talk about, and that slavery wasn't the thing in which they were talking about, but they got us somewhere in here to where we stopped believing our people and started believing them, who are known for lying. But I want to try not to ramble too long. I just wanted to really touch on that first. I'm going to come back with some other stuff because it goes so deep. It's hard to really put on one video because you have to unravel each lie piece by piece. Like, I would have to unravel the lie of indentured servitude. I would have to unravel the lie of slavery. I would have to unravel the lies of the Indian Removal Act. I would have to unravel the lies of the Trail of Tears. I would have to, you know what I'm saying? You got to keep going because it all plays a part. They created race because they were revolting, and I think it's called the Bacon's Revolt. Look that up. It was when white people and black people came together. The indentured service came together and revolted because of unfair treatment. They were not granting them freedom and things like that, and they weren't protecting them from the natives who was cutting up on their ass. So they revolted, and this scared the fuck out of the colonies and stuff, and they were like, we have to separate them and create a hierarchy, because if they come together, there's way more of them than us, and they'll whoop our ass. So that's the only reason race was ever created in the first place. So it doesn't exist, and we don't have to go by it. There is no need to ever know my race because it's not a real thing. I can tell you where I'm from, I can tell you where my people from, I can tell you who I am, but race is not a thing, only if you're looking to find out if I'm a slave or not.